Hello, fictional. Welcome to the crossover What Ifs. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the son of Dante? Part 2. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. The journey so far can be described as one thing for Naruto, exhausting. At first it was exciting for him as it was a new experience altogether, but the constant roaming around the castle made it feel like they were moving around in a maze or a dungeon. After taking care of Griffin and making their way down the pillar, they have been moving and fighting non-stop. Not too long ago they encountered a new demon called the Plasma. The Plasma had two forms. In their bat form, they only have projectile attacks and are fairly easy to deal with using guns, while in their human form, they retain the beam attack but can also use melee attacks similar to Dante's own. Their melee attacks are slow enough for them to dodge but are still very dangerous since there is almost no warning that they are going to use them. They are also affected by their beam attacks, so it is quite possible to get plasmas to kill each other. Their main trick in their human form is their ability to multiply, splitting into 3 copies when struck. Every time this happened he couldn't help but wish he could do the same, maybe that way he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. There was even a time when they fought a slim-like powerful demonic machine, which is essentially a living tank called the Nightmare. The battle was a very tricky one, but it still ended the same way as usual with them as the victor. Though Naruto nearly got killed so many times by the demon's complicated attack patterns. There was even this one time that he got teleported to an evil dimension and had to fight some phantom-looking demons. Hey, stop zoning out, Dante deadpanned at the kid beside him who had a lost expression on his face. Seriously, what goes on in that head of his? We have been moving for some time now and we still haven't seen Mundus since after that time, Naruto sighed in annoyance. They have been moving up and down in the castle all day fighting both old and new opponents alike. They walked into a room and Naruto gasped in shock. Is that a plane? Naruto stuttered as they stumbled upon a biplane in a workshop at the end of the long hallway. The plane was held straight by wooden framework like it was undergoing repair. Dante whistled in fascination as he circled around the plane. So there was something like this down here? How did it manage to get down here? Naruto turned to Dante and asked. Do you think it still works? Dante shrugged. No time to find out. Come on, there's still work to be done. Naruto gave the biplane a once-over before following after Dante. They head back the way they came to the cathedral, then out onto the broken bridge which they skillfully crossed over. Here we go. Dante walked up to the symbol at the far end of the platform and raised the staff of Hermes. The staff resonated with the symbol causing a bright flash of light. This forms 2 portals. The portal on the right displayed the image of the Castellan's bedroom and because they have been there before they didn't bother with that one and chose to go through the left one. They appeared out at the base of the guard quarters, on the other side of the portal they jumped through. Naruto glanced around after exiting the portal before turning to face Dante and asked, which part are we now? Don't ask me. It's not like I have a map or something. Well, you just seem to know where to go. Dante scoffed as he continued forward. Instincts, kid. Instincts. Oh. Naruto scratched his head sheepishly before following Dante out of the room and up a spiral staircase. A single marionette was present in the room halfway up the tower. They quickly dealt with it before continuing up the spiral staircase, reaching a door at the end of the staircase. The room behind the door was a study with bookshelves on both sides and a desk. At the far end of the room are 2 portals shaped like a rectangular mirror. The portal on the left side lit up depicting a full moon when they approached it, while the right portal remained inactive. I guess we are going through the left. It's not like we have a choice, Dante rolled his eyes before jumping through. Naruto sighed at Dante's decisiveness. Try and be suspicious. It might as well be a trap. Naruto thought before following after. The portal took them to a large open square room with a door on the other end and a full moon shining up in the sky. Thunder boomed in the sky. What a beautiful sight, Naruto said as they approached the door on the other side. Awed by the serenity of the moon's celestial body. Dante however had his guard up as they slowly approached the door. When they finally reached the door, Dante raised his hands to push open the door only for the door to be sealed, followed by a loud roar to fill the entire square. Not again. Naruto groaned when he saw the seal. Dante however had a small smile on his face as he turned around to look at a new demon that looked like the blade standing on the wall of the square with white frosty skin giving off cold chilly air. There are 2 of them. And here I thought that there would be no one to welcome us. Well, don't just stand on ceremonies. Come. Upon Dante's taunt, the Frosts immediately attacked them. The one that charged at Naruto was blown back by the grenade gun. Dante clashed with the other one and quickly found out after a few exchanges that swords were useless against them. Well, if that won't do it, how about this? The Frost left an opening in its defense and Dante wasted no time in capitalizing on it. He dashed towards the demon with a right hook at the moment when the punch was about to connect. Ifrit appeared around his outstretched arm. Let's see how much you can handle the heat. The punch connected and like a meteor the frost was blown into pieces. I guess that was too hot for it to handle. Dante turned around to see how Naruto was faring, only to see him sitting by the door with a bored expression as he approached him. Took you long enough. Don't get BP, kid. Dante pushed open the door and walked in without looking back. Naruto walked behind him with a small smile but didn't say anything else. If it wasn't for the grenade he launched earlier, he wouldn't have found out the frost's weakness before Dante, therefore one-upping him. Going through the door leads to a long hallway with several suits of armor and tables, as well as a wave of marionettes and fetishes. At this point in time this lesser demons could no longer be considered an appetizer for them, more or less a challenge. They fought with the marionettes and fetishes along the way before reaching a partway along the corridor which leads to a door, but it was locked and they couldn't open it, so they had to search around the corridor before finding another door at the far end. Boom. Whoa. Immediately after stepping into the room a fireball appeared within their line of sight, but the two of them dodged it effortlessly, causing it to hit the wall behind them. They looked to the other side of the room to see a grotesque-looking dragon statue there. Its mouth lit up with an orange glow confirming their suspicion. So that's how it is. Dante spun Alistair and held it like a baseball bat before taking a stance. Give me your best shot. Naruto stood behind Dante and watched in anticipation. And not a moment too soon did the Pluto dragon shoot a fireball out of its mouth towards Dante. The speed of the fireball was too slow for Dante to miss. The flat side of Alistair's blade connected with the fireball and sent it flying backwards. The fireball smashed into the dragon, caused a mini explosion. When the dust cleared there was now a decent fissure in the dragon's skull. I guess it is not immune to its own attack. Naruto nodded in understanding when he saw that. Before he turned to Dante. Hey Dante, how many fireball do you think it can take before it breaks down? Dante examined the fissure in the Pluto dragon's skull and said. 2. Wanna bet? Then it's a bet. If you lose you will cancel the favor I owe you. Dante thought about it without taking his eyes off the Pluto dragon. Deal. But if I win you'll have to buy me strawberry sundae for a month. Deal. As if to seal the deal the Pluto dragon shot a fireball right at this moment. Dante, who was already daydreaming of how to drown Naruto in department, unhurriedly sent the fireball crashing back into the Pluto dragon. The cracks on the Pluto dragon widened even more and spread outwards. First shot. Dante's smile widened when he saw this, while Naruto watched with bated breath as the Pluto dragon shot another fireball at Dante. Second shot. Just like before, Dante sent the fireball back but this time with more force. The Pluto dragon was shattered immediately it came into contact with the fireball. Shit. Naruto watched as the Pluto dragon crumbled into dust after taking 2 shots. It was destroyed in 2 shots. But how? Before he could dive further into his thoughts he felt an arm around his shoulders and turned to look at the smiling face of Dante. I'll be in you care from now on, Naruto-kun. Hahaha. Hearing Dante's mocking words Naruto could do nothing but grit his teeth in mild anger. Dante however was grinning inwardly. To be frank, the kid had guessed it right. His only flaw was that he failed to notice that he added Ifrit meteor to the last attack. What is gambling if not to cheat? Clearing that out of his mind he turned around to at the mirror that had risen out of the ground where the Pluto dragon was previously with a crank on the wall beside it. Stop sucking kid, we've got work to do. Dante looked up to see another mirror and slowly rotated the crank to turn the mirror, stopping only when it was in line with the mirror on the ceiling. The light connected with on the ceiling and lined up to a pedestal on the second floor of the area where Pluto's dragon was. A key item, the quicksilver, formed in the pedestal. It was a round-shaped object with a glassy look. Right at this moment lightning flashed outside the window revealing hovering square-shaped platforms on the second floor that turned invisible after the lightning died down. So that's how it is. Dante jumped from one invisible platform to the next, making it look like he was walking on air, but the occasionally lightning flash revealed the invisible platform underneath his feet. Naruto watched as Dante quickly crossed the invisible platforms to reach the quicksilver on the pedestal. Dante picked up the quicksilver and jumped down to land in front of Naruto. Well, that was fun, Dante said, tossed a round crystal clear orb up and down in his hand. Yeah right. Naruto scoffed before he trained his eyes on the quicksilver in Dante's hand. Here. Dante tossed the quicksilver at Naruto when he saw him staring at it. Wah. Naruto fumbled around when the quicksilver was suddenly thrown at him out of nowhere before managing to catch it in a firm grip. Hey, what was that for? What if it fell down and broke? It doesn't matter. You hold on to it. Dante shrugged nonchalantly while walking off without looking back. Naruto grumbled something underneath his breath before following behind him. They headed down the corridor and found a door at the end which they unlocked with the help of the quicksilver. The double door opened to reveal a large room inside. Plank. Whoa. Well, I'll be damned. This is one magnificent throne room, Naruto exclaimed in awe as they walked into what looks like a throne room. That's not all. Dante pointed at the roof-to-floor window, and at that moment lightning flashed outside the window, revealing a humanoid figure standing by the window. Nelo Angelo stood in front of the window facing them with his broadsword in hand. He pointed it wordlessly at them before releasing an explosive surge of power. Boom. The demonic power around Nelo exploded, creating a gust of wind that forced the two of them to shield their faces. What the? Naruto put down his hand and stared slack-jawed at Nelo Angelo, who now stood without his helmet, revealing a human head underneath it. Virgil. He heard Dante's shocked gasp beside him and couldn't help but frown in confusion. Who the hell is that? He watched Dante take a few steps forward before stopping a distance away from Nelo. So you survived our last battle. And here I was mourning your death. But seeing you like this is a little distasteful. How about I put you out of your misery? Naruto didn't understand a word Dante was saying, but before he could ask, Nelo let out a vicious roar, sending out a violent gust of wind blowing everything back. Ah. Ah. Naruto slid back when he came into contact with the gust. The blue aura surrounded Nelo's sword and he dashed towards Naruto, performing a horizontal slash. Funk. Clang. Naruto's arms trembled as he blocked the hit with Purgatory. Even with his five-tailed Kikbi cloak activated, he still couldn't bear the full brunt of the attack. He was thankful that the first thing he did was to unleash the Kikbi chakra, if not he wouldn't have able to withstand that attack, talk less of blocking it. Move. Naruto rolled out of the way and Dante came in with a stinger from behind. Nelo blocked the hit, sending sparks everywhere. Dante revealed a mocking smile, not surprised that his attack got blocked. Not bad. But I'm only just getting started. A demonic aura burst out from Dante as he transformed into his demon form. Naruto, who had just recovered, dashed towards Nelo with Purgatory to support Dante. The two of them engaged Nelo in a fierce battle. Their blades created sparks as they connected with each other. Clang clang clang. Their blades entered a battle of attrition, weaving through the air in an intricate pattern, creating a beautiful scene. The battle was unlike the other times that they fought. This time both sides didn't hold anything back. Naruto dodged under a wide swing from Nelo and did a high time, but Nelo moved back to avoid the attack. However, Dante appeared behind him with Alistair already in a swinging motion. Just when it looked like the attack was about to connect, a summoned sword blocked the attack and a few more shot after Dante, forcing him back. Dante didn't seem surprised by the fact that Nelo was able to use the summoned swords. In fact, he expected it. Nelo teleported out of the way in time as Naruto crashed down on his former position with an helm breaker, but he didn't stop there as his chakra tails charged after Nelo, forcing him to teleport around to avoid them. Nelo teleported out of the way again, but this time he appeared right in front of Dante, who had been waiting. It was then that he noticed the tails were not moving aimlessly, but rather forcing him towards the middle where Dante was. Realizing that he was trapped, he held his broadsword tight and prepared to defend. Dante didn't stand on ceremonies either as he zoomed towards Nelo with Alistair crackling with lightning. The blades cashed against each other, resulting in an explosion. Boom. The explosion shook the whole floor violently. Naruto's chakra tails retracted to shield him from the explosion that created cracks in the walls and pillars around. The explosion died down to reveal Nelo and Dante engaging in a furious wordplay. The both of them clashed once more before entering a deadlock. Dante revealed a demonic grin before he pushed off Nelo and shouted. Naruto. On it. Swoosh. The blood-red aura, the shape of a crescent moon, zipped towards Nelo, who was about to chase after Dante, stopping him in his track. Naruto revealed a small smile as the technique homed in on Nelo, only for the smile to vanish as 5 ethereal summoned blades appeared out of thin air and destroyed the sword aura. Yahahahaha. More summoned swords appeared out of thin air and flew at them like a missile. Clang 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 clang. Purgatory and Alistair moved with lightning speed, deflecting all the summoned swords with slight trouble. Move. Dante kicked Naruto out of the way as summoned swords descended on his former location, stabbing into the ground. Naruto frowned when he saw the sword stabbed into the ground. If it wasn't for Dante just now, it would have been too late for him to react. Seeing this scene, Nelo gave an evil laugh and made a come here gesture to the two of them. Naruto glared at Nelo with a deep frown on his face and said without taking his eyes off of him. It seems like you want us to attack him again. Then let's not stand on ceremony. Come. Swoosh. Boom. The both of them disappeared like a flash of lightning and clashed with Nelo, resulting in a sonic boom, shattering all the glass windows in the throne room. The two of them engaged in a deadlock with Nelo. Dante stared into Nelo's glowing eyes with a mocking grin as he said. Try and keep up, kid. I'm way ahead of you. Clang. 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 Boom. 3 shadows clashed against each other around the throne room. The battle between them left cracks and created sparks wherever they went. The battle went on for a while without both sides gaining the upper hand, but the intensity of the battle continued to rise. Ah! Naruto blocked Nelo's blade, but the force behind it sent him crashing into a pillar. He made to move, but 5 summoned swords flew out and pinned him to the pillar. Ah! Naruto spat blood as the blades penetrated deep within his body. The chakra cloak on his body visibly dimmed. Arg. Damn it. Naruto revealed an unwilling expression as he watched Dante continue to battle fiercely with Nelo. The battle just now had put him at a disadvantage. He could barely keep up with Dante and Nelo, which made him curse internally. It's still not enough. I need more power. I can't afford to stop now. Naruto gritted his teeth and forcefully pulled out more chakra from the seal. Come on. Come on. Red chakra leaked out of the seal on his stomach, and the cloak bubbled like boiling water as 2 more tails slowly grew out of his cloak. The boiling cloak melted the summoned swords in his body, and the wounds made by the swords quickly healed. The cloak became a darker and thicker shade of red. His eyes gained a darker hue. Dante had just ended another clash with Nelo when he felt a sudden burst of demonic aura. He looked over to see Naruto hunched over near a pillar with 2 new bubbling tails growing out of his cloak. Naruto. Dante felt a feeling of pride well up inside of him when he felt Naruto's sudden increase in power. Nelo, who had also felt the demonic aura, turned around to look at Naruto, who had suddenly gotten an increase in power and prepared to attack him with his summoned swords. But in the blink of an, Naruto disappeared and Nelo reacted quickly by raising up his broadsword to block a downward slash from Naruto, who appeared out of thin air. The clash sent out a massive gust of wind and cracks appeared underneath Nelo's feet. Naruto immediately went on offense, not giving Nelo any time to react and forcing him to be on passive defense. This continued for a few more seconds before Nero left out a loud roar, pushing Naruto back. Naruto landed a short distance away and frowned. DSK. It's still not enough. Tap. The hand on his shoulder snapped him out of his thoughts. He turned around to see Dante, who has a small smile on his demonic face. Not bad, kid. You finally did it. Yeah, but it's still not enough. But it's still progress. Dante shrugged before turning back to look at Nelo. After all, I still have to put my dear older brother back to sleep. Brother? Naruto exclaimed. He turned to look at Dante with a shocked expression. You didn't tell me you had a brother. Because I thought he was dead. I guess I was wrong. Somehow Mundus must have found him and done something to him. At first I wasn't sure it was him, but after I saw his reaction to my amulet during our last fight, I was certain of it. The demon standing before us is my older twin brother, Virgil. Now all I want is to help him find peace. Naruto replaced the frown on his face with a serious look and said. Then we better do it quick. I'm already sick and tired of hearing that demonic laughter. You and I both. Naruto looked at Nelo again and said with a smile brimming with confidence. Hey funk face. Time for round 2. Somewhere in the castle. Trish stood in front of a bookshelf in a part of a library, searching for information on demon seals and human vessel. Contracts with demons. She reached out for a book when a sudden explosion rocked the entire library, sending books falling to the ground. Boom. What the hell is going on? Boom. Ah. Erg. The explosion sent Naruto and Dante flying backwards before steadying themselves with their swords digging into the ground. Their blades made a fissure in the ground before coming to a stop. Ah. Naruto looked up at Nelo, who was emitting a dangerous aura as he grabbed his head in pain with cracks all over his body. Pant. 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 What is it now? Dante stood back up to his feet. His eyes locked on Nelo's form, emitting an intense demonic aura, and tightened his grip on Alistair with a serious expression. It seems he has already reached a breaking point. This should be the final battle. It's about time. I don't think I can last much longer either. Naruto also had a serious expression on his face. The fight up until now had been a very tough one. So this so-called final battle shouldn't be any lesser with the amount of demonic power Nelo was emitting. There's no time to waste. Let's finish him. Okay. Boom. Clang clang clang. But those words, the two of them clashed continuously against Nelo around the room. Slash marks would occasionally appear on the pillars and walls around the room. The collision of power caused the entire room to shake violently. Arg. Dante dodged a wide slash from Nelo and attacked with a million stab. The phantom blades surrounding Nelo quickly moved in to block against all the stabs. Naruto appeared behind Nelo and moved in to attack, but a phantom blades blocked his sneak attack before attacking him. Shit. Not so fast. Nelo turned around to engage Naruto, but he quickly disappeared from his position, and not a moment too soon did Dante crash down on his former location with an explosion, unleashing Ifrit's Inferno, which covered a 3-meter radius around him. Naruto also jumped back to avoid the range of Ifrit's attack. Dante looked up at Nelo standing a good distance in front of him and smirked. "You fell for it." Nelo gazed at him with a puzzled expression before a sharp sound entered his ears. He turned around only for Alistair to slash across his chest, leaving a large cut on his chest, causing him to stagger back. Nelo placed a hand on the wound on his chest as blue ethereal energy started sipping out of the large wound. The crack in his body widened even further than before. Swoosh. Alistair returned back to Dante's hands like a boomerang. "Naruto. On it." Nelo turned around to see Naruto dashing at him from the opposite direction with Dante doing the same. Their swords charged full with demonic power chakra. Nelo raised his broadsword up and prepared to defend himself, but it was already too late. His broken body could no longer keep up, so he could do nothing but stand there, and Naruto and Dante approached him like the Grim Reaper itself. Time slowed down at this moment as their swords draw closer. And just as the blades were about to connect, time resumed back. Swoosh. Clang clang. Naruto and Dante slash him at the same time before sliding to a stop a few steps away with their backs facing Nelo. There was a small pause before a mini explosion took place, sending out a small gust of wind. The cracks on his body spread to encompass all of his body. Nelo placed his hands on X mark on his cracked armor and took a few steps back before an ethereal blue aura surrounded him, but this time he started screaming out in pain. Nelo grabbed his head as he slowly floated up into the air. He let out a loud roar that filled the whole room before disappearing with a flash, forcing them to shield their face from the bright flash of light. Phew. It's finally over. Naruto fell down on his butt and his chakra cloak faded away. His face revealed an exhausted expression as he lied down on the floor, greedily inhaling oxygen like a starved animal. The battle just now had taken everything out of him. He probably wouldn't be able to pull out the Nine Tails chakra cloak anytime soon. Dante's devil form also flashed away, exposing Dante, who had a frown on his face. He noticed a red amulet in the ground and walked towards it. "Dante?" Naruto stared at Dante's back with a sad expression. Dante picked up the amulet and caressed the amulet in his hand when a memory suddenly flashed by. "Virgil, Dante, happy birthday." Dante tightened his grip on the amulet with a deep frown. "I'll avenge you, Virgil," he thought. The amulet shivered in his hand, snapping him out of his thoughts. He watched as the amulet moved out of his hand and floated up in the air. As if being pulled by an invisible force, the amulet around Dante's neck cut itself loose before floating up to Virgil's amulet. Dante watched the amulets with a light frown as he knew what was about to happen. The two half amulets circled each other before combining into a perfect amulet with a flash of light. Naruto watched in fascination from his position on the ground as the perfect amulet slowly floated into Dante's palm. But before his fascination could die down, Force Edge appeared in front of Dante, floating mid-air. Dante reached out for the blade in curiosity, only for it to release a bright flash upon contact. "Oh. My. God," Naruto gasped when he saw the demonic sword that appeared in place of Force Edge. The demonic sword was surrounded by a blood-red aura with occasionally black and red lightning arching across the sword. The devil arm, Sparda. Dante examined the demonic sword in his arm with a look of recognition and awe. He gave it a few test swings before nodding in satisfaction. Now that's the real deal. He remembered that Virgil once aimed to get this sword in his quest to gain their father's power. He turned around to look at Naruto, who was staring at him in shock, causing a small smile to appear on his face. "What's with that look?" Naruto hesitated a bit before asking. "You okay, Dante?" "Never better." "Boo." Dante interrupted Naruto before he could ask anything else. "You did great, kid. Maybe it wasn't such a bad idea bringing you here." Dante gave a light chuckle, waving off his concern before he turned to look out the window at the dark sky with a serious look on his face. "But it will all be over soon." Meanwhile, in a massive hall lined with pillars on both sides, Trish stood in front of a giant statue with three eyes in a triangle formation. It could have been passed as an ordinary statue if not for the voice that came out of it. "Trish, Virgil has been defeated. You know what you must do." "Yes, master." After catching their breaths, they stepped onto the magic circle on the floor and proceeded to the next area. The portal reappears back in the top level of the guard rooms, and this time the portal on the right is active. Dante didn't think twice before jumping through the portal with Naruto in tow. Naruto frowned when the portal they passed through teleported them into a cell in a submerged prison area. He had unknowingly inhaled a small amount of water. There should be a heads up for this kind of situation. Naruto cursed inwardly when he saw Dante casting him a side glance without saying anything, but the expression on his face was pretty much mocking him. Dante gestured for him to follow before swimming away. Naruto wanted to say something, but because he didn't have the ability to talk underwater, he could only begrudgingly follow Dante through the hole in the wall to their left, leading to another cell. This cell was identical with the one they left, with bent open bars which they swim through leading into the hallway. They spent some time swimming around the underwater prison without encountering any demons, before eventually finding a path that leads to a large square underwater chamber, where they were suddenly jumped by 3 sin scissors. Shit. Naruto narrowly avoided a scissor that was aimed at his head. He dodged a follow-up attack before swimming backwards away from the sin scissors. Since he was powerless underwater, all he could do was dodge the attacks aimed at him, while Dante dealt the sin scissors using the needle gun. I should really find a way to counter my underwater situations. An unpleasant look appeared on Naruto's face after dodging a fatal strike from his sin scissors. The sin scissors, seeing that it missed its intended target, moved in for a second attack, but Dante stopped it in its tracks with a needle gun to the head. Once all the sin were defeated, a section of the wall between the 2 horse statues in the chamber slid open, displaying a new pathway for them to follow. Naruto and Dante exchanged looks when they saw the new path open before swimming towards it. Immediately they swim through it rather than water. Naruto felt cold wind hit his face as he landed on solid ground with a stunned look. What the? Naruto looked back at the opening they passed through with shock. Unbelieving, he reached his right hand out the opening, and when he pulled it back it was wet. It must have been a portal, Dante theorized after witnessing this. It was a first for him too, though no matter how surprising it was, it still couldn't beat some of the crazy things he had seen. Naruto nodded. After all, this wasn't the most shocking thing he had seen all day. This demon castle seemed to be intent on completely shattering his rational way of thinking. Come on. There's a door ahead. They walked through the door at the end of the narrow path, only to appear inside of a castle tower with a wheeled device. The wall at the end of the room. Is it me, or does this castle look familiar? Looks like we are back in the castle, or maybe alternate version of the castle. Naruto turned to look incredulously at Dante, who had a nonchalant look on his face, and said, "You don't seem surprised." Of course. You'll witness a lot of things when you've been in this line of work for as long as I have. After all, the demons used to pull him into an alternate dimension a lot when he was a teenager, so he was familiar with this sort of things. Is that so? Alright. Let's not dwindle. Dante walked towards the wheeled device at the other end and began a merciless perform deadly combo on it with Alistair. The symbols on the wheeled device lights up in after the other. When the last symbol on the wheel lit up, water suddenly pushed into the room from nowhere, flooding the tower floor to ceiling. Water again. Naruto nearly lost it when he found submerged underwater with warning for a second time. Dante, however, wasn't paying him any attention as he sensed a presence somewhere at the top of the building. He had sensed it when they first entered the building, but he ignored it. However, the presence was stronger now. Not wasting any time, Dante quickly swam to the ceiling toward the source. Dante walked towards the wheeled device at the other end and began a merciless perform deadly combo on it with Alistair. The symbols on the wheeled device lights up in after the other. When the last symbol on the wheel lit up, water suddenly pushed into the room from nowhere, flooding the tower floor to ceiling. Naruto wanted to call out when Dante swimming upward all of a sudden, but alas, he didn't have the ability to talk underwater, so he could only hurriedly swim after him. "Slow down, you crazy bastard," Naruto cursed at Dante, who was ahead of him. No matter how he swam, he still couldn't close the gap between them. He had only made it halfway up the tower when the water suddenly disappeared, just as it had appeared, leaving him airborne. Oh shit. Naruto's heart skipped a beat when he slowly started to fall back down to the ground, but his quick thinking saved him as he grabbed onto the railing on the last floor and pulled himself over the railing. Shit. I swear if Dante pulls any more of those stunts again, I will kill him. Naruto gritted his teeth as he glared at the back of Dante's head, ready to put a bullet through it. However, when he saw the golden egg on the pedestal, his anger was snuffed out. Wait, is that a golden egg? Naruto stammered as he gazed upon the philosopher's egg. There is a saying that finding a golden egg means that you are set for life. Thinking of this, he smiled happily as stared hopefully at Dante's back. Dante, I think maybe we can. No, we are not going to sell it. Dante quickly cut him off with a deadpan look before he could complete his sentence. After all, he could understand how the kid brain works. Whenever it comes to money, he acts more like lady than anything else. Which is scary. Before Naruto could retort, the philosopher's egg on the pedestal suddenly vanished from his eyes, which signifies that it had entered Dante's pocket dimension. Why? Dante nearly slapped his forehead when he heard that. Some things he feels like he raised a money grubber. Resisting the urge to tear him a new one, Dante said. Because we probably won't get the chance to leave this place with the egg anyway. So what's the point? Naruto sighed in defeat. He had already guessed that, but he was still reluctant to part with the golden egg. Demons really don't do anything for free, do they? And here I thought this one was gonna be different. Dante smirked when he saw the long look Naruto was pulling. How could he blame him? He had also thought of the same thing when he was younger. However, he did find out one important detail. It's not that you can't take anything. It's just a matter of what you are taking. As much as he wanted to say those words, he knew that he would just be asking for trouble. Who knows what else lady might have secretly taught him. With that in mind, he decided to keep his mouth shut. Don't dwell on it. Who knows, your luck might shine through. Dante's comment caused Naruto to sigh again before he suddenly remembered something important and turned to Dante, saying. By the way Dante, what was that sword that appeared when those two amulets combined with Force Edge? You mean this sword? Dante asked as the demon sword Sparda appeared in his hands. Now that Naruto got a better look at the sword, he was completely shocked by its demonic look and the power it gave off. The Devil Sword Sparda keeps the grip and crossguard from Force Edge, but the spike on the skulls is split in half, with the frontward, more elaborate half forming a small blade that curves around the bottom of Sparda's blade. Force Edge's blade is replaced with a spine-like structure attached to two curved blades via an organic-looking substance. Together the blades form one long blade. The top portion has a large glowing red gem-like object in the center. The other side has two significantly smaller gems, glowing orange and pink. Dante twirled the Sparda with a smile saying. This old thing belongs to my old man. It was once used to separate the human world and the demon world and is said to contain the power of Sparda himself. The power of Sparda itself? Naruto exclaimed in shock. According to what Dante had told him before, Sparda was said to be the most powerful demon ever created, rivaling the demon king Mundus in power. If this sword contains even a portion of that power, then just how powerful will the sword itself be? Dante nodded with a small smile, saying. Yeah. It wasn't long after I stopped a crazy dude from stealing that same power that I met you in that alley. Naruto smiled fondly as memories of that night resurfaced. The night when his entire world changed for the better. I guess it must be fate we met then. Yeah, you can say that. Dante shrugged nonchalantly as he stored Sparda back in his pocket dimension. However, he had a small smile on his face unbeknownst to Naruto. Well, enough of that. We've still got a job to do here, reminded Naruto before jumping over the railing down to the floor below. Naruto didn't waste any time either, quickly jumping after him. By the time he landed, Dante had already walked through the door. Walking through the door, Naruto appeared in the fountain courtyard from before. The fountain courtyard is here. Like the tall tower, the fountain courtyard is mirrored and altered. The courtyard was dark, but the burning torches on the pillars barely light up the courtyard. The fountain was no longer present. The presence of the restraining circles on the floor and wheel devices on the walls left little doubt as to what is waiting for them here. Dante stood a few steps in front of him, but Naruto ignored him in favor of glaring at the magic circle on the ground. I don't like this. Neither do I. Dante shook his head before walking up to the device in the alcove where the lion statue was before. But contrary to what he said, he had an excited smile on his face. After all, the nightmare was the only demon so far that could be considered a challenge. After reading the words written on the alcove, he realized that this was where the philosopher's egg was supposed to go. Sorry kid, Dante whispered before placing the philosopher's egg on the alcove and watched as it slowly start to heat it. After a few seconds, a soft sloshing sound echoed around the courtyard. So it begins. Naruto turned around to look at the small magic circle that had appeared in the middle of the courtyard. His eyes stared fixedly at the nightmare slowly emerging from the magic circle. I don't need you to tell me that. Naruto tightened his grip on Purgatory's handle as he watched with bated breath at the emerging form of nightmare. Immediately the nightmare fully emerged. All hell broke loose. Naruto was still recovering his demonic chakra, so he couldn't use his cloak form. He had to rely on his quick reflexes and fast thinking to dodge the nightmare's deadly attack while also attacking. However, Dante had no problem at all fighting the nightmare in a one-on-one battle, talk less of a two-on-one. Purgatory and Alistair ditched out one combo after another. The two weapons were like meat grinders. Dante used the grenade launcher from time to time to attack the nightmare whenever it exposed its core. It was only after a long-winded battle that they managed to defeat the nightmare. The fight took a huge toll on him since he couldn't use his demonic chakra at the moment. However, throughout the battle, Dante never once used the demon sword Sparda. Since his arrival in this castle, Naruto could proudly say that the nightmare was the most frightening demon he had fought. Even the phantom paled in comparison. Naruto looked at his own fist and frowned. The power he had now was still not enough. If it wasn't for Dante fighting alongside him, he doubted that he could have defeated the nightmare on his own. A light tap on his shoulder snapped him out of his thoughts. He looked up to see Dante standing before him with Alistair on his shoulder. You okay, kid? Naruto shook his head before saying with a small smile on his face. Yeah. Why do you ask? Because you had that whole "I am powerless and I hate myself for it" look on your face again. That's not it. Naruto unconsciously blurted out, but Dante merely shrugged, not asking further, but inwardly he was concerned. If you say so. Come on, we have no time to lose. Okay. You really remind me a lot of Virgil. I just hope you don't end up like him. Dante cast a concerned look at Naruto before heading towards the teleportation seal in the middle of the room. Clang. Naruto was about to walk out of the room when he heard something hit the ground. He turned towards the sound to see an ethereal blue object with pointed sides on the ground next to the alcove. His curiosity got the best of him, so he went and picked it up to get a better look at it. "Kid, you coming?" Humming, Naruto pockets the elixir before running after Dante. The two of them stepped onto the seal, which teleports them back to the seal in the guard rooms. It's this place again. Is it like a checkpoint or something? Naruto glanced around the room trying to find what made it so special. After all, they have been to this same spot more than 3 times. If we keep coming back here, it must mean that this old castle still holds a lot of secrets. I just hope it's not the demons playing a trick on us, Naruto grumbled. Trust me. They are not that smart, Dante laughed before walking towards the door of the guard room, confusing Naruto. Aren't we supposed to go through one of these portals? Not at all, Dante answered without turning back. And why is that? Because the portals haven't changed. They are still displaying the same images, Dante explained. After all, Naruto was still new to this demon hunting business, so his knowledge was still lacking. Naruto turned around to look at the portal behind him when he heard Dante's explanation to see that the portals were still displaying the last 2 locations that the two of them had been to. Sure enough, they are still the same. Looks like we'll have to find another way out of here. Naruto shook his head dejectedly before running after Dante. They went through the door and headed downstairs, rushing to the bottom floor where there was a teleportation circle. Naruto stepped onto the teleportation circle with Dante and left the guard tower via the teleportation circle. When Naruto regained their vision, they reappeared in another teleportation circle in the Castellan's bedroom, where he saw Dante standing before a mirror. "What is it?" Naruto asked as he walked closer to the mirror. When he entered a meter range of the mirror, it started to give off an eerie feeling. They went through the door and headed downstairs, rushing to the bottom floor where there was a teleportation circle. Naruto stepped onto the teleportation circle with Dante and left the guard tower via the teleportation circle. When Naruto regained their vision, they reappeared in another teleportation circle in the Castellan's bedroom, where he saw Dante standing before a mirror. Dante looked at Naruto quizzically before noticing a glowing object in Naruto's pocket. "What is that in your pocket, kid?" This." Naruto pulled out the elixir that had fallen from the alcove, holding it out for Dante to see, saying, "It fell out of the alcove after the nightmare died." So that was why the mirror reacted. A look of realization appeared on Dante's face when he saw the glowing elixir and heard Naruto's explanation at the same time. "But still, what is this place?" Naruto asked while looking around in astonishment. The Castellan's bedroom was largely the same in the mirror world, save for the fact that there was no door leading into the bedroom and the balcony door was wide open. Dante also looked around the Castellan's bedroom for any changes before explaining. A mirror dimension. It's a world created by demons. They use it to walk among humans. A mirror dimension. Naruto repeated in shock before he suddenly thought of something and turned to look at Dante with a deadpan look. "What? I hope you are not calling it that just because we entered through a mirror." "Of course not. What do you take me for?" Dante scoffed with an eye roll before walking his way towards the balcony. "Now hurry up unless you want to spend the rest of your life here." "Not unless the demon world have ramen. Then, no thank you." Naruto shook his head, unhurriedly making his way out of the bedroom. They jumped down into the courtyard where they saw an 8-sided object resting on top a pedestal in the middle of the courtyard. The stone didn't look special and could be passed off as something ordinary if not for the faint aura surrounding it. "What is that?" "It looks like an 8-sided dice." Naruto marveled while walking towards the pedestal to get a better look at the octagon-shaped object. Dante followed closely behind him while carefully examining his surroundings. Naruto, however, was fascinated by the ancient symbols drawn on the sides of the object. "Be careful there, kid. It could be a trap." Dante immediately called out when he saw Naruto reaching for the object. Naruto scoffed when he heard Dante's words before picking up the Philosopher's Stone, completely disregarding Dante's warning. He turned back towards Dante with the Philosopher's Stone held up in his hand, asking, "Since when has it not been a trap?" Dante deadpanned at the crazy teen before him and was tempted to teach him a lesson when he suddenly noticed the rapidly growing shadow underneath Naruto and shouted, "Move out of the way, kid." It was thanks to Dante's warning that Naruto finally noticed the shadow and managed to roll out of the way just before a figure crashed to the ground. Boom. Naruto slid to a stop beside Dante, and when he looked up he was shocked to see a strange monkey-like demon standing on all 4 where he had been just moments ago. The demon was vaguely humanoid, but with its 4 walking limbs all ending in hands and a much larger hand growing out of the middle of their back. It had a bald head that looks like a human's head with empty eye socket and emits a whooping cries. "What kind of a demon is that?" Naruto shuddered unconsciously when he saw the nobody. However, he had a wide grin plastered on his face. Although it wasn't his first time fighting a weird demon, it was definitely the first one that gave him a creepy and weird out vibes. And unsurprising, it brought friends. Naruto thought as he looked at the other four nobodies that had also appeared in the courtyard. Looks like another one of your friends, Dante. Naruto smirked, which was mirrored by Dante as Sparda appeared in his right hand. Well, I do appreciate the surprise visit. After all, I was starting to get kinda bored. How about we give them a 5-star service? An evil glint appeared in Dante's eyes. The demon sword Sparda also gave off an evil aura, causing the nobodies to take a step back. Then let's show them some hospitality. Naruto charged towards the nearest nobody like a demon out for blood. The nobody noticed him and attacked with a large hand on its back. Predictable, Naruto countered with purgatory, deflecting the hand to the side before ramming his blade into its head. The nobody, acting on instincts however, jumped back, avoiding the hit on time. But rather than be infuriated, Naruto smirked instead when he saw the nobody airborne. And unsurprising, it brought friends. Naruto thought as he looked at the other four nobodies that had also appeared in the courtyard. Seeing their continued do right in front of them triggered the other nobodies as they jumped at Naruto as one. When they were a few meters away from their target, a white-haired figure appeared between them and their intended target with a mischievous look in his eyes. Not so fast. Sparda's blade extended out to become a scythe which radiated an evil aura. Whirlwind slash. Dante held the scythe in a particular stance and waited for the nobodies get within range before twirling on his feet person around slash that sent out a red aura that blew the nobodies away, killing 2 of the weaker ones instantly. Naruto was stunned by the blade's display of power, especially how it turned from a sword to a scythe. Amazing. So this is the power of Sparda. The devil sword Sparda in Dante's hands transformed into a spear. Dante charged at the demon with a stinger which transitioned into the million stab. Immediately million stab ended. Dante did a high time, sending the demon sky high. Dante appeared before the unsuspecting demon and started ditching out one attack after another. Naruto snapped out of his daze and quickly charged at the other one. The nobody also took notice of the human charging at it and standing performing a weird dance which surprised Naruto. Is it dancing? No. That feeling is. Whoosh. Naruto dodged as a fist sailed past his head as the nobody appeared by his right. Past. Naruto did a handstand and kick out with his left leg, sending the nobody back a few feet, putting some distance between them. The nobody hit the ground with a lot thud before standing back up on all four. A dim red glow enveloped its body, giving it a more demonic feel. Realization struck Naruto when he saw the demonic aura emitting from its body. So that's why. You can also use a miniature form of the devil trigger, but all you did is just extend your time by a tiny bit. Naruto chuckled before charging at the nobody again. This time he held nothing back. The sudden boost in speed made it difficult for the nobody to react. Naruto appeared beside the nobody and attacked with a cross slash, cutting off its right leg, causing it to lose its balance from the sudden weight loss. The nobody screamed in pain from having its limb severed. Enraged that it had been wounded by its prey, the nobody furiously attacked Naruto with its big hand. Naruto however scoffed as he easily sidestepped the move before attacking the nobody with a chain of combos, giving it no time to retaliate before ending it with an helm breaker, shattering its mask into piece, killing it in the process. That's the last of them. Naruto looked up to see Dante walking up to him. The demon been fighting had long since become dust in the wind. You are getting better at fighting demons now. Dante complimented while looking at Naruto with a proud smile. He had seen Naruto's fight with the nobody and he was impressed. Naruto had managed to finish the nobody, which was a powerful class of lesser demons, without any flashy moves or using his demonic chakra. Naruto however was unaware about this fact. The reason he didn't use any chakra during the fight was because his demonic chakra was taking longer to recover since his fight with Virgil, so he refrained from using it excessively. However, he looked up to Dante as a dad, so hearing his praise caused a cheerful smile to bloom on his face. So what to now? Naruto asked, since there was nothing else down here besides the Philosopher's Stone, which is now in their possession. However, before Dante could say anything, they heard the sound of glass shattering, causing the both of them to look up to the second floor where they had jumped down from. Is there a new enemy? No, I know that sound. After all, I have been hearing it ever since I came to this island. Naruto turned to Dante to see a faint smile on his face, confirming his suspicion. That was a curse breaking, wasn't it? Naruto turned Dante, who had a bitter smile on his face as he said. Looks like we are heading back the way we came. Unbelievable, Naruto facepalmed. Following which they climbed back up to the bedroom and passed through the mirror, leaving the mirrorverse. I guess we are through with this area, Naruto thought as they stepped into the teleportation circle. After coming back to the Castellan's bedroom twice in a row, now he was prayed that nothing will ever bring them back, otherwise he might just lose his mind. The teleportation circle flashed, and when Naruto regained his vision, they had appeared on a huge round platform with 2 teleportation mirrors. One of the mirrors displayed the image of the Castellan's bedroom where they had just been. That was a curse breaking, wasn't it? Naruto turned Dante, who had a bitter smile on his face as he said. Looks like we are heading back the way we came. Dante walked behind Naruto and hugged Naruto from behind. The sudden move caught Naruto by surprise, causing him to stutter. What are you doing, Dante? Hold on tight, kid. Dante ignored his glare and said as he transformed into his devil form before flying them over the broken bridge. Dante landed them in front of the cathedral's doors before transforming back into his human form, only to see Naruto still glaring at him. What? Is there something on my face? Dante asked obliviously before proceeding to check his face for anything unusual. Naruto clicked his tongue at Dante shamelessly before saying, how about a little warning next time? I would, but I feel like we are running out of time, Dante replied seriously as he glared at the doors of the cathedral. Why do I feel a strong sense of danger coming from behind that doors? Dante thought before casting a side glance at Naruto, only to see a serious look on his face as well, which caught him by surprise, since Naruto's attention was also focused on the door. Can he also sense it? Should that be possible for him? Contrary to Dante's beliefs, Naruto could also sense the demonic power coming from behind the doors. Although what he actually sensed was a huge sense of danger. His senses were telling him that nothing good would come out of walking through that door and were advising him to run far away from there. Naruto was having difficulties with himself. No matter how hard he tried, his body refused to obey his commands. Bead of sweat started forming on his brows, and when he thought he was finally going to lose it, a voice snapped his out of his thoughts. You know you can stay here if you want to. It will only get tougher from here, Dante said when he saw Naruto's hands shaking. No, Naruto shook his head with a small smile, rejecting Dante's suggestion. He turned to look at Dante with a determined gaze before saying, I've come too far to stop now. Dante, who had been worried about him losing his will to continue, smiled when he saw the determined look in his eyes. Well said, kid. A real man should always see his journey to the end. No matter how difficult they may be. After that was said, Dante forfeited any ideas he had about persuading Naruto to turn back before walking towards the cathedral's door. Dante placed his hands on the huge double door before pushing it wide open. Come. Our journey is almost at an end. No matter what, I won't let you die on my watch, Naruto. In a dark room somewhere, a pair of blue eyes snapped open before looking into the distance. You are finally here. Dante. So this is the underworld, Naruto said as he appeared out of a teleportation circle, scrutinizing his surroundings. A new area completely different from the one he was used to. The walls and ceilings looks like a bloody flesh, giving him the feeling that he was inside the belly of some monster rather than the underworld. The pungent smell of blood here was also nauseating. The dark and gloomy environment was really worthy of the underworld. Dante, however, was unfazed by all this. After all, this wasn't his first time here in the underworld. Don't let your guard down, kid. We are not here to sightsee. Naruto nodded seriously, remembering the reason why they were here in the first place. After taking another quick look around, Naruto followed Dante to an high opening in one of the fleshy walls which leads into a pulsating corridor. Naruto was incredibly creeped out when he saw the wall squirming around like it was alive. Eventually he decided to add it to his ever-growing list of the most crazy things he had ever seen. They walked down. The corridor leads to a door blocked by a pulsing red membrane. These blockages simply need to be struck with an attack to get rid of them. After getting rid of the membrane, Naruto and Dante walked into another area with a divinity statue. However, aside from the divinity statue, a pair of frosts strutted around in the area. They promptly dealt with them and break through the huge pulsing red membrane blocking the door on the other end of the room, quickly moving on to the next area. They had little time to waste right now. The next area they walked into was like a cave with numerous stalagmites and stalactites. What at that? Naruto pointed at the numerous red kanjis glowing ominous on the ceiling on the cave. He noticed it the moment they stepped into the roof. Truthfully, it was hard not to notice since it was glowing so brightly, it light illuminating the entire cave. Not only that, but a few circular glowing formations are scattered around the cave. While they were still glancing around, they heard a familiar voice shout in their direction. Dante. That voice. Almost like a magnet, Naruto and Dante turned towards the source of the voice lying on the ground in the far end of the cave. Dante. Help me. Trish. Dante shouted the moment he saw her figure. Before he knew it, he was already running towards her. Wait, Dante. Naruto hurriedly ran after him to stop him, but it was already too late. The moment the two of them reached the middle of the cave, a circular formation formed around them, keeping them from proceeding forward. Naruto frowned when he saw the pale green dome surrounding them. What is this? This is my first time seeing something like this. He turned to Dante to inquire if he knew what the barrier was. However, before he could, he caught sight of something moving in the corner of his vision. That's Naruto tensed up when he saw the black liquid substance oozing out from the ground and gradually forming into a familiar figure. Nightmare. Naruto frowned when he saw the nightmare slowly taking form in front of him. He hurriedly unsheathed Purgatory from his back and took a ready stance. Dante also noticed the nightmare. Sorry, Trish. But you'll have to wait a little, Dante said to Trish with Alistair in hand. His gaze locked onto the nightmare. Naruto. I'm way ahead of you. Like a gale, Naruto blasted off towards the nightmare. The red chakra of the nine tails bubbled out of his body and formed the five-tailed cloak enveloping him like a caterpillar in a cocoon. Immediately the cloak formed, Naruto's speed increased drastically and he flew towards the nightmare like a missile. Dante followed behind him with Alistair crackling with lightning shredding the air apart in its wake. Seeing them charging towards it, the nightmare unleashed all its attacks on them trying to hinder their momentum, but Naruto and Dante avoided the attack as if they could predict its path of trajectory. The two of them seamlessly maneuvered around the nightmare's attacks. Even when its attacks started to become unorthodox at one point, they were still able to break through and get within reach. Immediately they reached the nightmare, all hell broke loose. Like loose cannon the moment they three of them engaged each other, the area inside the barrier became chaotic. What is this? Trish couldn't believe her eyes when she saw Naruto engaging the nightmare on equal footing. It wasn't that long ago when she met Naruto. The reason she allowed him to tag along was that she didn't see him as a treat and thought it would be better to get rid of anyone related to Dante. But not long after they reached the castle, that unassuming kid not only managed to survive but defeated and killed the nightmare as well. Soon after that her interest in the kid named Naruto grew, pushing her to dig deeper, but the more she digged the more questions she had. Or to be more specific, the more she started to question the nature of the demonic cloak that enveloped him, as well as the source of its power. From what she has seen so far, the more tails the cloak possesses the more power Naruto got. But a demon with that ability or appearance does not exist in all the archives, books or tomes in the demon castle's library. Which puzzled her. Just what are you, Naruto? Boom. A loud explosion occurred in the battlefield, snapping Trig out of her thoughts. She looked up to the middle of the barrier where the battle was taking place to see the nightmare shooting out beams from different part of its body. One of the stray beams hit Naruto and sent him flying backwards. Naruto only came to a stop after crashing into the barrier. Now is my chance, Trish thought when she saw Dante standing with his back turned to her. Shit. I shouldn't have let my guard down, Naruto cursed as he steadied himself on purgatory. That desperate hit from the nightmare had nearly knocked him out. In fact, it was one of the strongest attacks he had received so far. During the battle with the nightmare he has come to realize that the nightmare they were currently facing was different from the other ones they had fought so far. Every attack from it could even rival that of Virgil after taking his helmet off. However, after that last attack the nightmare entered a weakened state and stopped moving, meaning that this was their chance to finish it off. Naruto. A loud voice called out to him, snapping him out of his thoughts. Naruto turned to Dante standing on the other side of the nightmare near the barrier looking at in concern. However, his gaze wasn't focused on Dante, but rather the person standing behind him. Dante. Look out. Naruto shouted, but it was already too late. Trish hit Dante with her lightnings, electrocuting him. Ah. Dante fell to the ground smoking. He slowly got back on his knees, but when he turned around to look at the person standing behind him, he felt nothing but betrayal. Trish, you. Hahaha. You fool. You are so easy, Trish laughed when she saw the look on Dante's face. Trish, how could you? Naruto glared hatefully at her. If it wasn't for the barrier he would have charged at her right about now. Knowing this, Trish scoffed at him. Human so sweet. You should know better than to trust a stranger. Your presence has become a hindrance to my master's bloody scheme. Now die. As soon as she finished speaking she shot another bolt of lightning at Dante. This time Dante reacted on time and jumped out of the way, putting some distance between him and her. Unsurprisingly, the nightmare chose this moment to resume its attacks, putting pressure on them. Now they have to fight a nightmare while also avoiding Trish's sneak attacks. That bitch. Naruto gritted his teeth as he avoided another bolt of lightning courtesy of Trish. Don't pay too much attention to her, she can't do much to us thanks to the barrier. Moreover, once we defeat the nightmare the barrier will fall, Dante said when he saw Naruto glaring at Trish. He also cast a side glance at her before looking away. True to what Dante said, Trish could do much with her lightning bolts thanks to the barrier. And because the two of them were moving around non-stop, she couldn't hit any of them with her lightning bolts, only caused small distractions which left a bad taste in her mouth. Moreover, before she had the chance to do anything the nightmare was finally defeated and the barrier crumbled. Curse you two. Why won't you two just die? Brewer. The nightmare let out a ferocious roar as its body starts to fall apart. It started shooting out beams all over the cave, causing the cave to quake. Naruto dived out of the way of a laser beam, missing him by a few inches. The beam zipped overhead, moving around in an unorthodox fashion. Trish, who was lost in thought, stumbled backwards when a beam suddenly passed over her head. However, the beam soon disappeared as the nightmare melted away. Trish was about to leave a sigh of relief when she heard a loud video call out to her. Trish. When Trish saw Dante running towards her, she immediately prepared for a fight, but that when she heard another sound coming from beside her. She turned around to see the huge stalagmite beside her falling towards her, causing her to panic. No. It was already too late for her to dodge, so she could but stand there and watched as the stalagmite moved to crush her. However, just at this moment Dante arrived and tackled her out of the way, saving her from a gruesome fate. Dante, Naruto shouted, shocked by what he had just seen. He couldn't believe his eyes. When he had first saw Dante charging towards Trish, he thought that he was moving to end her life and believed it was over for her, but the opposite actually happened. It wasn't only Naruto. Even Trish was shocked by the sudden turn of events. Weren't they enemies? Wasn't she trying to kill him just moments ago? No matter how much she tried, she just couldn't come up with a reasonable explanation. So she turned to the only one who could give her an answer. Dante. Dante, who was already walking away after saving her, stopped mid-step with his back, turned to her and said nothing. Trish didn't mind and she proceeded to ask. Dante, did you save me? As soon as Trish finished speaking, silence enveloped the entire cave. Even Naruto turned to look at Dante, curious as well as to Dante's reason for saving her. After a few seconds of silence, Dante turned a little to look back at Trish and said, because you look like my mother. Trish and Naruto were speechless when they heard Dante's answer. However, before Trish could say anything, Dante continued. Now get out of my sight. The next time we meet, it won't be like this. With his part said, Dante resumed his walk. Trish watched him for a few seconds before standing up to follow him. Dante. However, before she could take another step, Dante turned around and pointed Ebony at her, stopping her in her step. Don't come any closer, you devil. You may look like my mother, but you are nowhere close to her. You have no soul. You have the face, but you'll never have her fire. With his piece said, Dante turned around to leave. Let's go, Naruto. See coming. Naruto, who had been caught in a trance, cast one last look at Trish before running after Dante. It didn't know what it just experienced, but he could feel the emotions rolling off of Dante. It must have been painful being betrayed by someone with your dead mother's face. Trish watched them leave with a somewhat sad expression. Her eyes glued onto Dante's retreating back. A few seconds after they left, 3 red glowing orbs in a triangular formation appeared beside her and said in a demonic voice. You two have failed me, Trish. You know the rules. Meanwhile, Naruto and Dante walked out of the red membrane and into a ring-shaped room around a central pillar. Are you okay, Dante? Naruto asked immediately they stepped out of the membrane. Dante has been awfully quiet since that incident with Trish. He was starting to get worried since this was the first time he has seen Dante so down. I'm fine. Dante sighed, then continued. It's just having to see my mother's face being used like that really bothered me. That's why I won't forgive Mundus. Creak. Naruto and Dante walked through the only open door to the right of the dimly lit ring-shaped room to enter a larger chamber. It still looks unnerving, Naruto mused as he looked around the large room with a disgusted expression. The room was dimly lit and a massive door covered in multiple white seals was visible at the far end. And near the door they entered through was an enormous inert heart with blood vessels snaking across the room to connect with the big door. The heart is finally beating now, Naruto sighed in relief as he stared at the beating heart in the middle of the room. The first time he and Dante got here, the heart and blood vessels had been dead-like state. Only after they destroyed a large blood vessel with a circular white demonic seal that they found inside the room did one of the blood vessels started moving. After some trials and errors of trying to get the sealed door open, Dante deduced that they might have to get the heart to start pumping blood again before they could open the sealed door. Since the blood vessels were connected to the door, it made more sense. But from that point on would be one of the most tormenting experiences he has ever had. It reminded him of when they used to go back and forth inside the demonic castle. Fortunately, after going through all that trouble, they finally managed to break the seal on the door. As the seal on the door broke one after the other, Naruto felt a strong presence coming from behind the door. This is it. Behind that door is our objective. We are finally at the end of our journey. Alright. Let's go, Dante. Naruto mustered up the courage and said when the seal on the door completely shattered. However, before he could take a step forward, a hand reached out to stop him. Dante? Naruto turned to look at Dante with a questioning expression. Why was he stopping him now when the seal on the door has shattered? Weren't they in a hurry to stop Mundus from taking over the human world? What is it, Dante? Naruto, it's not too late to turn back now, Dante said seriously. It might sound unreasonable, but what laid beyond those doors was something more powerful than what the two of them have ever faced. What are you talking about, Dante? We've come too far for me to turn around now, Naruto said. It was impossible for him to leave now that they have finally reached their objective. Naruto could understand Dante's worries for his safety. But even knowing that, Naruto shook his head and said. Don't worry, Dante. I'll be fine. When Dante heard this, he sighed in defeat. Honestly, he wanted them to see things through together. But he still wanted to know if Naruto had had a change of heart. So he was relieved when he saw his determined to continue. Smiling, he said. Very well then. Since you have decided, let's stop wasting time, Dante said before walking to the door. He placed both hands on it and slowly pushed it open. As Dante pushed open the huge doors, the sight Naruto saw was completely different from what he had expected. What is this place? Naruto gasped. Unable to believe what he was seeing. The inside of the room was a stark contrast to the outside. It was like it was in a completely different dimension. The room was a strangely calm white marble chamber with 2 rows of huge pillars. At the end of the gigantic room, a massive white statue sat on a throne like a benevolent god. If Naruto didn't know any better, he would have thought that this was heaven rather than the demon world. However, as they reached the center of the room, they heard a dark voice coming from the statue. You are finally come, Dante. And I see you brought a friend, Mundus said before his gaze moved to Naruto. Then, with a tone of interest, he said. I have seen your potential, child. For a human brat, it is commendable that you managed to make it this far. Why don't you come and serve me? I will give you unlimited power. Naruto scoffed at Mundus' so-called offer and said, I don't want power from a demon who kills his own followers for failure. Demon king or not. There's no way he would lower his head to someone who doesn't care about the lives of others. Is that so? Mundus said with a somewhat disappointed tone, but inwardly he didn't really care. He had only made a passing offer. Whether Naruto accepted or not doesn't matter. He never planned to let him leave either way. Mundus. I'm here to make you pay for the crimes you committed against my family, Dante said as he pointed Sparda at him. He was annoyed that Mundus had ignored him. When Mundus saw the devil's sword pointed at him, a frown appeared on his face. Again, I must face a Sparda. Strange fate, isn't it? Strange and ironic that it will end the same way. Dante retorted. However, rather than get angry, Mundus laughed and said. Irony has favored you this time. Look. As soon as he finished speaking, a white beam of light appeared from his third eye and pointed behind them. Naruto and Dante turned around cautiously, but when they saw what the light was pointing at, they gasped. Trish. Naruto exclaimed. The last time they saw her was when they fought the nightmare. What was she doing here? And tied up for that matter? Trish's eyes fluttered open when she heard her name being called. With difficulty she turned to look down. However, rather than express joy when she saw Dante and Naruto, she panicked and hurriedly shouted. Look out. Trish tried to warn them, but it was already too late. A beam of light hit Naruto from behind and sent him crashing into the wall at the far end. Naruto. Dante shouted when he saw Naruto smashing into the wall. Mundus. Filled with rage and fury, Dante turned around to glare at Mundus. However, as soon as he did, 3 red beams shot out of Mundus' eyes and pierced through Dante's body. Dante. Naruto shouted when he saw the red beams sticking out of Dante's body. He wanted to move, but his body felt heavy. That last attack had done a lot of damage to him. Even with the 9 tails chakra healing him, he still found it difficult to move. When Mundus saw their pathetic state, he decided to be merciful and said. I'll give you a choice. Serve me and I'll let them both go. Screw you. Dante spat. There was no chance in heaven or hell that he'd ever serve Mundus. Fool. Mundus rebutted when Dante refused his offer. That was him showing Dante mercy by giving him a chance to live, but instead he didn't treasure it. So sad that humans will be humans no more. Has the Sparda blood been spoiled over the ages? Mundus laughed eerily as his third eye started glowing with a white light. No. Dante, move. Ignoring his injuries, Naruto forced his body to move, running as fast as he could towards Dante. He got a bad feeling when he saw that white light. However, he knew that he wasn't going to make it on time. Come on, come on. Naruto's heart ached as he watched the beam of light grow brighter. Unfortunately, before he could get within range of Dante, Mundus fired the beam of light. No. The light beam honed in on Dante, closing the distance between them at the speed of light. Dante watched the closing in on him, unable to avoid it due to the red beam piercing through his body. Dante. Naruto's heart froze as he watched the white beam closing in on Dante. No, 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 move. Hunking move. Dante. Naruto shouted atop of his lungs. But no matter how much he screamed, Dante didn't move an inch. However, at the last moment a figure appeared and pushed him out of the way of the light beam, taking the attack in his place. Trish. Dante shouted in shock when he saw the appearance of the person who blocked the attack for him. However, at this moment the red beams restricting his movement vanished, allowing him to catch her falling body. Naruto was shocked by this sudden turn of event. So much so that he stopped running. Wasn't she trying to kill them just a few hours ago, so why did she suddenly jump in the way of an attack meant for Dante? However, they weren't the only ones surprised by her action. Useless scum. Failure is one thing. But taking an odd behavior like that, Mundus laughed. However, he noticed that Dante wasn't responding to him anymore. "What is the matter?" Mundus asked as his third eye started to glow again. When Mundus saw Dante frozen still after Trish's death, he quickly lost interest. "That's not good." Naruto panicked when he saw the same white light being aimed at Dante again. Moreover, he noticed that Dante wasn't making any move to dodge the beam. "Dante, move," Naruto shouted, but Dante remained unmoving, causing him to freak out. "Come on, Dante. What about your revenge? Are you just gonna stand there and die?" "Auntie." No matter what Naruto said, Dante still remained unflinching, which only made Mundus laugh at Naruto. "You must be regretting your decision now, boy. But it's already too late. It is time to end your pitiful lives. Now." As Mundus finished speaking, he got a beam at Dante again. This time there was no one to block the attack. Naruto could only watch with a heavy heart. However, just when everyone thought it was over, Dante turned around to look at the light beam. As if scared of him, the light beam suddenly changed direction and hit the wall far away from him. "Dante?" Naruto couldn't believe his eyes when he saw Dante divert the beam with his gaze alone. "Is that really Dante? Just a few minutes ago he was having difficulties receiving an attack from Mundus. And now he could already divert an attack. How wouldn't he be surprised? What's going on?" The reddish-black aura surrounding Dante's body caught Naruto's attention. The amount of energy contained in it was on a whole different level compared to before. "Is that the devil trigger?" "No, it's become stronger." "Just what happened to you, Dante?" Those eyes. Mundus frowned when he saw Dante's glowing red eyes, feeling a sense of deja vu. Those eyes looked awfully familiar to those of Sparda. Ignoring his shocked expression, Dante said, "How much longer are going to keep zapping? Come out. And show yourself, Mundus." "That's not his real form." Naruto blurted out, incredulously. He must be joking, right? One attack from that form was already enough to nearly cripple him. Now he found out that wasn't even the real form. Just what type of monster are they up against? Mundus laughed eerily when he heard Dante's words. Suddenly, the whole room starts to quake as cracks started surfacing on the giant statue's body. Bright lights peeked out from between the cracks, illuminating the room. The cracks continued to spread around the whole statue before it broke apart with a bright flash, causing Naruto and Dante to shield their eyes away from the light. After a few seconds, the bright flash dimmed, and in place of the statue was now a gigantic living statue of an aging, muscular, bearded man with enormous feathered wings, resembling Zeus. The statue has a circular depression in his chest, where an eye-like core is located in his god form. However, this form was pitiful compared to the majesty of that first form. "You surprised me, Dante. But it's such a shame, but you will fall just like your father." Sparda. Mundus' demonic voice boomed through the whole room as he gazed down on Naruto and Dante, as if staring at ants. "Naruto?" Naruto, who was gawking at Mundus' new form, was startled when he suddenly heard someone called his name. He turned to see Dante looking at with his glowing red eyes. No matter how unnerving it was, he answered. "Yes, Dante. Let's kick his ass." Dante grinned as he pulled out Sparda. Naruto felt his spirit soar when he was Dante's confident expression. His nine tails chakra cloak burst out of his body with vigor. Shockingly, 8 chakra cloaks appeared behind Naruto, waving back and forth. 8? I was only trying to call out the 7-tailed cloak like before. I never expected this. Naruto was also surprised by this change. However, this was a change that he welcomed wholeheartedly. Demonic power. Mundus was shocked when he saw the chakra cloak surrounding Naruto. This was his first time seeing such a thing. Trish never mentioned this in any of her reports. A human wielding the power of a demon without being possessed was a first even for him as the Demon King. Did he perhaps sign a contract with a demon? It seemed you are not all talk, after all. Now I want you even more. I'll make sure to leave you alive after cutting off all of your limbs. I'll have to pass on that offer. No, thank you, Naruto said as he tightened his grip on Purgatory. A more refined and sharpened red chakra extended from his cloak to wrap around the sword, giving it a more sharp and powerful aura to it. The reddish-black aura surrounding Dante exploded, creating a cocoon around him before bursting apart, revealing Dante in a completely new demonic form. This is the end, Mundus. Prepare to die. Before the battle could begin, Naruto suddenly turned around and walked up to Trish's body, confusing the others. Ignoring their questioning gazes, he gently picked her up bridal style. Dante and Mundus watched him carefully as he turned around and walked towards a corner of the room. "Thank you," Naruto whispered to Trish after placing her down on the ground before turning back. Dante nodded to him in appreciation at his action. However, Mundus laughed and said, "Showing compassion to your enemy. How weak. Humans truly are pitiful creatures." To you it might be pitiful, but that's what makes humans strong. Dante glared at the Demon King. "Then show me," Mundus demanded before shooting laser beams at them. Swoosh. Naruto and Dante redirected the beams with ease. With their upgrades, the two of them now had little trouble dealing with the light beams. Boom. The scattered light beams smashed into the walls and pillars, breaking them into pieces. Incredible. Naruto stared at the chakra cloak surrounding his body in shock. Previously, he felt a great deal of danger from the light beam and knew that if he were to take it directed from one, he would be incapacitated. But now not only could he block it, he could even redirect it. Is this the power of the Eight Tails chakra cloak? It's unbelievable. Dante exclaimed in surprise. He had thought of immediately going to assist Naruto when he saw Mundus shot the laser beam. However, that proved to be unnecessary. He has seen the power of Naruto's seven-tailed cloak during their fight with Virgil, but the eight-tailed cloak was on a different level entirely. It seems I have underestimated the power of your demon. Just what kind of demon are you housing, child? Mundus demanded. He hadn't thought much of the child's demon at first. But after seeing him deflect his light beams, he couldn't ignore it anymore. There was no way a lower-ranking demon could block his attack, much less a middle-ranked demon, so that means the demon inside Naruto must be a higher-class demon. Which begs the question. How did you manage to get the protection of an high-ranking demon? An high-ranking demon? Naruto repeated in disbelief. He knew what an high-ranking demon was. But even after Dante told him everything he needed to know about demons and the demon world, the best he could think of was the Kyuubi being a middle-class demon. It seems that I have underestimated my tenant's power, Naruto sighed dejectedly. It doesn't matter either way, Mundus. It doesn't change the fact that we are going to take you down. Dante intervened. Well, he was curious as to how a high-ranking demon was sealed in Naruto. They still have bigger fish to fry. Indeed. Your demon is more powerful than I thought. But that won't change your fate, Mundus declared before a gigantic red magic circle appeared above them. There was no way a lower-ranking demon could block his attack, much less a middle-ranked demon, so that means the demon inside Naruto must be a higher-class demon. Which begs the question. How did you manage to get the protection of an high-ranking demon? Unfortunately, before the two of them could do anything, Mundus pointed at them and numerous fireballs descended on them from within the magic circle. Naruto and Dante immediately grabbed their weapons and got into action, moving faster than the eyes could follow, slicing the flames into pieces. His eight-tailed cloak also served as an automated self-defense weapon, blocking whatever attack came too close. Mundus continued to launch fireballs at them while adding lightning bolts to the mix, keeping them from closing the distance between them. What a coward, Dante frowned when he saw Mundus continue to keep his distance while hurling attacks at them. If that's how you want to play, then two can play that game. Dante pulled out ebony and ivory and fired barrage of bullet at Mundus. However, surprisingly, the bullets came out in the form of large bolts of energy with runic symbols marked on them. Naruto and Dante immediately grabbed their weapons and got into action, moving faster than the eyes could follow, slicing the flames into pieces. His eight-tailed cloak also served as an automated self-defense weapon, blocking whatever attack came too close. When Mundus saw the runic symbols heading towards him, he ignored it, sensing no real danger in it, and continued his attacks. But when the first bolt touched his body, his expression promptly changed. He immediately flew backwards to avoid the rest. However, some of them still managed to hit him before he could escape, leaving cracks in his body. How dare you? Mundus bellowed in rage. He had only hoped to teach them a lesson and never intended to fight them seriously. But that last attack from Dante had managed to damage him. That was unforgivable to him as the Demon King. It seems the bullets were effective. Dante grinned when he saw Mundus throw a tantrum after receiving his attack. Dante, what were those runic symbols? Naruto asked. After taking a bit from Dante, Mundus had stopped attacking, giving him time to breathe. I don't know. But playtime is over now. Things are about to get serious, Dante said seriously. He knew that Mundus had been toying with them previously. After all, he was the king of the underworld. It would be a hit to his pride if he was to fight them seriously from the start. But after that stunt he pulled, Mundus won't bother holding back anymore. It was now officially a battle of life and death. Not long after he said that, Mundus let out a loud roar. A light spear appeared in his right hand and he pointed it at them and said, "For your crimes against me, I'll make sure that not even your souls survive." As soon as Mundus finished speaking, he flew at them like a bullet. Despite his size, his flight speed broke the sound barrier. Swoosh. Mundus appeared in front of them, the light seer already moving in an arc towards them. Space distorted wherever it passed. Neither of them dared to take the attack head-on. Dante immediately performed air hike and moved out of the range of the spear. Naruto used his cloak tails to pull himself out of the way. The spear shattered the pillars in the room and dug a deep crevice in the ground, kicking up a huge debris and dust cloud. Immediately the attack settled, Naruto and Dante charged out of the dust cloud. Naruto ran along the spear's shaft while Dante flew beside him. The two of them leaving after images in their wake. Mundus, seeing them unhurt and alive, started shooting red beams at them. Naruto and Dante moved with exceptional smiles, dodging the beams like professional athletes. The two of them darted across the room, making it difficult for Mundus to aim properly at them, rendering him helpless against their attacks. They attacked him from different directions, leaving scratches and cuts all over his body. "You insignificant creatures," Mundus bellowed before thousands of tiny spears appeared all him and fired off in all directions. Shit, Naruto weaved through the barrage of light spears showing exceptional footworks. He countered the spears that he couldn't dodge with his tails, but some spears still managed to break through his defense and pierce him. "Naruto, are you okay?" Dante asked when he saw the light spears sticking out of his body. "I'm fine," Naruto said as he pulled the spear out of his body. Immediately he pulled out the last one. The self-healing kicked in, quickly healing the wound. Dante nodded. He then looked behind Naruto where Trish's body laid. The area around her body was completely unmarred by the light spear. "I thought you hated her. So what has changed?" "Pitiful. You'd still protect her dead body, even after knowing that she is long gone?" Mundus questioned. The more he tried to understand humans, the lesser he knew. Just what did Sparda saw in these creatures, enough for him to revolt? "I don't give a shit ass what you think," Naruto said as he stood back up to his feet. He pointed purgatory at Mundus, then continued. "But that won't stop us from kicking your ass." "Old words for those who are about to die," Mundus laughed before flapping his wings. A strong gust of wind filled the room, sending debris flying all around. "Let's go, Naruto." "Hi." Naruto and Dante dashed at Mundus, leaving after images behind. The three of them engaged in a deathly battle, destroying everything in their path. The room became a mess. There was holes everywhere. The once beautiful room was now in shambles. Boom. 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 Naruto and Dante double-teamed Mundus, not giving him any chance to retaliate or cast any spell. Dante played the role of attack while Naruto supported him. The two fought together in perfect synchrony. Naruto wrapped his chakra tails around Mundus' leg and pulled, throwing him off balance and giving Dante the opportunity to attack. Dante crashed into Mundus' chest with a meteor drop from Ifrit, causing Mundus to fall out of the sky and to the ground. Naruto and Dante double-teamed Mundus, not giving him any chance to retaliate or cast any spell. Dante played the role of attack while Naruto supported him. The two fought together in perfect synchrony. The whole room shook from the impact, causing tremor. Cracks spread across the whole ground. "Enough." Mundus bellowed. His flapped his dust, causing a huge gust of wind as he hurriedly flew back up into the air. After going back and forth with Naruto and Dante, Mundus' body was now covered in cracks. If this was to keep up, there was no denying that he might end up losing this battle. Mundus' third eye eluded a blinding eye, causing Naruto and Dante to tighten their grip on their weapons in anticipation of the attack. The next moment a thick light beam shot out of Mundus' third eye like a railgun. Naruto and Dante prepared to either counter the attack or dodge it. But, shockingly though, the attack didn't hit either of them. Instead, it zipped past the two of them, surprising them. However, it only took a few seconds for realization to hit them. "That's..." Naruto and Dante turned around to see the bin of light heading for Trish. Naruto immediately responded. His body shattered the sound barrier, covering the distance between him and the light beam within seconds. "Naruto, wait." Dante tried to stop him, but it was already too late for that. Naruto appeared between Trish and the incoming light beam with Purgatory already in full swing. The 8 tails coiled around it, increasing its explosive power. "Not on my watch." Purgatory connected with the thick beam, and the sound of glass shattering could be heard, followed by an explosion kicked up a dust cloud. The next second a figure shot out of the dust cloud and smashed through a few pillars before creating a dent in the wall. "Naruto." Dante tried to stop him, but it was already too late for that. Naruto spat out blood as he collided with the wall. His whole body was covered in blood. In his right hand he held what remained of Purgatory, or what remained of it, which was just the hilt and guard. The blade had shattered in the previous attack. The chakra cloak surrounding his body had long since faded. His vision was blurry. He could barely see. His body fell from the dent he created to the ground like a rock. But Dante managed to catch him before he hit the ground. "Naruto, are you okay? Why aren't you healing?" "Dante? I don't know why. My chakra was suddenly cut off after that last attack," Naruto said, reached out a hand to touch Dante's cheek. "But why? Why do you have to go so far for her? I thought you hated her," Dante asked. He was completely at a loss right now. But what puzzled him the most was why Naruto wasn't healing. He always healed whenever he got injured, whether he wanted to or not. So why wasn't it working now? "I'm sorry. I just couldn't help it. My body moved on its own," Naruto said before coughing blood. His entire ribcage was shattered. He tried calling on his Kyuubi chakra cloak, but it wasn't responding, almost like something was preventing it from doing so. "No, it's okay. Just stick with me. You'll be alright," Dante reassured as he held him in his hands. Although his voice sounded demonic, the fear and worry he felt could be heard in his tone. However, Naruto shook his head and said, "It's alright, Dad. I'm just glad. Meeting you and Mom has been the greatest thing to have ever happened to me. You taught me what it means to be loved and cared for. I'm sorry for not being of much use when you needed me the most. No, you are not. I'm glad to have called you my son. So don't leave yet. I still have a lot of things I haven't shown you yet, Dante pleaded with blood running down his eyes. He couldn't afford to lose him. Not now. Not after everything they had been through. Don't. Whoa. Worry about Megistelmo. Mom. That I low. Love her. His voice faded at the end of his sentence before his whole body went limp. His eyes lost their shine, causing Dante to panic. No. Naruto. Dante shook him, praying to whatever god was out there to save him. But all he got was silence. He once knew and treated like a son was gone. I told you emotions makes humans weak. Now you see, his compassion for his enemy became his downfall. It's a shame that devils don't cry. I would have been more than happy to see your tears. But never would I have thought that he was your son. Mundus laughed after watching the entire scene take place. But inwardly he had been anxious. He never thought that the day would come when he would face a pair that would prove to be as formidable as Sparda himself. This fight has caused him a lot, and it would take him a long time to recover from it. Seeing Dante still cuddling Naruto's dead body gave him a sense of deja vu as he said. Yet another one you care for dies. Take comfort in the fact that the two of you almost succeeded in defeating me. What was that I couldn't hear you? Mundus asked when he saw Dante whispering something. Was he planning to surrender now? Well, it's already too late for that. There was no way he would let him live now after all the damage he had done to him. I said shut up. Dante roared, and a demonic fire dragon burst out of his body and crashed into Mundus, pushing him back. The damage of the demonic fire dragon's attack caused parts of his body to fall apart, revealing a black liquid substance squirming inside the statue. You. Impossible, Mundus roared when he saw Dante hovering in front of him. His aura now was a far cry from a few moments prior. How can his power continue to grow? Dante glared at Mundus with hatred as he said. For your crime against my family. Not even your soul will remain. Meanwhile. Drip drip drip. The sound of dripping water echoed inside a large flooded room. This was the sound that Naruto awakened to. When he opened his eyes he found himself floating face up in a large dark room flooded with water that was at waist level. His whole body felt numb and heavy like lead. His head was the only part of his body that was responding properly. The room he found himself inside was dark and barely lit, so he could only make up little features about the room, not that there was much to begin with. It was just a square-shaped room with plain moist walls on all sides. However, on the far end of the room was a gigantic cage spanning the entire half of the room. Where is this place? The last thing I remembered was dying in Dante's arms. Is this what hell looks like? No. I've already been to the underworld. Did I get sent somewhere else? Or is this what heaven looks like? Neither, a dark voice answered, prompting Naruto to look up to the large cage where a pair of huge slitted red eyes were now staring at him. Long time no see, kid. Ayubi? Naruto looked at the giant fox staring at him from behind the giant cage in surprise. It was all coming back to him now. This was the place where he first met the nine-tailed fox when he was a child. It happened at the time when Danzo was about to perform the resealing ritual on him. And ever since then he and the Nine Tails had been on a mutual stance. Thank you. Naruto suddenly said. The Kyuubi was surprised that was the first word the kid would say to it after not seeing each other for many years. Before coming to this world he and the kid had only interacted with each other twice. He couldn't even call them acquaintance. So why? Why are you thanking me? No matter how hard it tried, the Kyuubi couldn't help but curiosity. Shouldn't the kid be blaming it for his bad childhood, all the things he had been through? More importantly, the death of his parents. For giving me strength. You had no reason to help me, but you always did. First a fight with the Phantom, then the one with Virgil. Even if it was for a short while, I was able to fight alongside Dante. But it's all meaningless now, since you are going to die soon. The Nine Tails said with a hint of sadness in its voice. When they first came to this world it had only protected the kid out of his own selfish desires. However, as time passed on, it realized that it wasn't because of its own survival. Instead, it was because he and the kid were the only beings from their own world. Meaning that the two of them were the only thing they had as a memento of their world. Although the Nine Tails hated Shinobis for imprisoning it and stealing away its freedom, it made an exception for Naruto. The boy who lost everything before he could even speak. During the fight with Mundus, because of the seal, he could only supply a small amount of chakra to the kid, giving him a boost in power. But it still wasn't enough. No. I don't plan on dying here. Dante still needs me. I see. Can't waste any more time. Here Naruto struggled, his whole body hurts, but he paid it no mind. Dante was still out there fighting Mundus. He couldn't afford to waste any more time here. The Kyuubi watched Naruto's motionless body in silence. But it could tell that he was struggling due to the tension on his face. After observing him for some time, the Kyuubi finally said. There's a way. But there's something I need you to do first. What is it? Naruto looked at the giant fox with hope. The seal. The Kyuubi pointed at the seal with its long, sharp claw and said. I need you to remove it. How do you do that? Naruto immediately asked without any hesitation. If it meant he could go back out there, he'll do anything. However, before the Kyuubi could say anything, a third voice intervened. Don't listen to him, Naruto. He's lying. As soon as the voice finished speaking, two figures appeared between the giant cage and Naruto. The first figure was an unfamiliar red-haired woman with an athletic build. Her long hair fell to her lower back. He doesn't remember seeing her face anywhere before. However, the blonde-haired man standing beside her was a face he recognized all too well. The Yondaime Hokage. Naruto stared at his childhood hero in shock. He used to adore the Yondaime Hokage, who sacrificed his life to Sella the nine-tailed fox and saved the entire village. At least it was until he met Dante, who killed demons for a living. But how the hell was the Yondaime here? Shouldn't he be dead? And who the hell is that red-haired woman beside him? Things were not adding up anymore. Hello there, Naruto. My name is Minato Namikaze, and the woman beside me is Kushina Uzumaki, my wife, Minato introduced with a smile. However, before he could say any more, the Kyuubi let out a loud ear-piercing roar at the pair and shouted angrily. Uzumaki? Naruto looked at the red-haired woman in surprise. Yondaime? You shameless bastard. How dare you show your face now? Do you think that both of you can save him? Kyuubi glared resentfully at the pair. If it wasn't for the cage stopping him, he would have immediately attacked the two of them. White Fox. I am here to speak with my son, Minato said as he glared back at the Kyuubi. However, Naruto, who heard his words, was appalled. Your son? Naruto looked at the Yondaime as if he had just said a joke. But Naruto doesn't find it funny at all. The third Hokage had told him that his parents were nothing but ordinary shinobis that had died on the night of the nine-tailed fox attack, and had even advised him not to worry about them. It was a hard pill to swallow at first, but he eventually came to accept that reality. So now how was he to accept the sudden revelation that his parents weren't some random nobodies and that his father was actually the Yondaime Hokage himself? The man he used to adore. The man who was also the one that sealed the nine-tailed fox inside of him and condemned him to a life of suffering and isolation. That man was actually his own father. You are lying, Naruto said in a low tone. His voice barely audible. He's telling the truth, son. We are your real parents. The red-haired woman stepped forward and said in a soothing tone which only irked him. I don't know you funkers. Naruto shouted, shutting her up. He couldn't take it anymore. Who the funk are these people to suddenly come into his life and start laying claims on him? Naruto, you can't talk to your mother like this, Minato scolded Naruto, but that proved to be a mistake. Mother? Mother, I don't even know who that bitch is. And for your information, the both of you are not my parents. Those roles belong to Dante and Lady. The two of you are just trash that lost their way. So leave me the funk alone. The whole room fell silent as soon as he finished speaking. Naruto's face was already fuming with anger at the end of his sentence. He could no longer control himself. Was this the same parents that he had always dreamt about? He felt like his life in the elemental nation had been nothing but a lie. The third Hokage and the older generation of shinobi must have been aware of his lineage, but they did nothing to stop the villagers from tormenting him. Only making sure that he was alive so he could continue to live his hellish life the next day. But that was the past. He had already left that world behind and was living a happy life now, but they just couldn't bear to see him happy and had even followed him all the way to this world. Moreover, while these two were here wasting his time, Dante was still out there fighting Mundus on his own. That was unforgivable. Minato and Kushina could feel their hearts shattering into different pieces at the end of that sentence. But they could only stand there and take it all in. The Kyuubi looked at Minato and Kushina without sympathy. It already knew that something like this would happen if they were ever to show their faces to the kid. If it had been in the past, the kid might have gladly accepted them, even ignoring the fact that they had been absent for his entire life. It knew this fact because it had read the kid's thoughts. The times were spent reading the child's thoughts, and most of it consisted of his yearning for parental love. However, that all changed when he came to this world. Not only did he escape his gruesome fate and suffering at the hands of the Hidden Leaf Village, but he finally found people that genuinely cared for him. Dante and Lady were everything he envisioned his parents to be. They were caring and loving towards him. They put him in a school and taught him everything he knew. They were also the first people to ever celebrate his birthday with him. It was only after living with them that he realized the injustice that the village had put him through. They persecuted him and blamed all their sufferings on him while taking the things they had and he wanted for granted. They were living happy, fulfilling lives. He had long stopped trying to know his real parents. Because to him they don't matter anymore. A third Hokage could have done better for him. He could have changed his identity completely and put him in an area where he could live peacefully, but no, he just had to put him in the middle of the village, where the villagers would always get to see him. After a short while, Minato was the first to break the dreadful silence. With a set tone, he said. I know that we are trash. And you have every right to call us that. But we meant well for you. We were afraid of what would happen if your existence was made known to our enemies. Since the village had just suffered huge damages and numerous casualties at the time. With it lack security, it would be easy for a defenseless baby like you to get assassinated. It was why Hiruzen chose to hide your heritage from you and gave you your mother's last name instead of mine. Son, I know that we haven't been the best parents to you. And neither have we been there for you when you needed us the most. But we are here now, aren't we? Kushina tried to reason with her son as well. She was still heartbroken from hearing her son refer to someone else as his mother. She knew she had no right to tell him what to do since she was never there for him to begin with. But was it wrong that she just wanted him to see her as his mother and not just some random nobody? Kushina. Minato looked dejectedly when he saw his wife's defeated look. He looked from his wife to his son who was staring at them with lack of sympathy. Minato knew it was his fault that his family was like this. All he wanted was a better future for his son, which was why he sealed the Kyuubi in him. He felt that he would be able to defend himself with the power of the Nine Tails, just like his mother had done when she was still a Jinchuriki. However, he knew that he had to set things right, even if it was the last thing he did. Whether his son forgives him or not doesn't matter as long as he lives. Stealing his resolve, Minato turned to the Nine Tails and said. Kyuubi. You said before that you had a way to save him. Can you tell me what that is? Minato. Kushina turned to look at her husband in stupor. The last thing she ever expected from him was to seek help from the same beast he gave his life to seal. However, she wasn't the only shocked by the sudden turn of events. Naruto and the Kyuubi were equally as shocked. Since the two of them were living witness of the Yondaime sacrifice. What trick are you planning, Yondaime? Surprised as it was, the Nine Tails was no fool. The Yondaime had opposed to his idea not too long ago, so why the sudden change of heart? It's not a trick, Minato replied before turning to Naruto and said. Son, I know we haven't been there for you in the past. So let me make it up to you by giving you a future to live up to. I'm sorry, Kushina. No, it's okay. I support your decision. Our son deserves a better future, Kushina said as she looked at her son with a loving smile. They might not have been able to help him in the past, but they can do so now. After Kushina finished speaking, Minato hurriedly weaved through dozens of hand signs at a very fast pace. What is he doing? Naruto could barely keep up with Minato's hand movements. If he were to compare, he'd say that he would need to use the Four Tails cloak form before he could even start to see those hand movements properly. While he was still mesmerized by the speed, Minato finally completed the last hand sign and shouted. Unseal. As soon as he finished speaking, a seal appeared on Naruto's abdomen, shocking him. Is that the seal the Nine Tails was sealed inside? Naruto stared as the seal on his abdomen, appalled. It was his first time seeing the seal. The seal on his abdomen suddenly spinned anti-clockwise, and a loud cracking sound echoed throughout the large room as the seal on the gigantic cell also did the same. Everyone watched with bated breath for different reasons as the seal slowly came undone. As soon as it completely unsealed, the Nine Tails burst out of the gate and let out a loud roar before it started laughing. Ha 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 ha. I'm finally free at last. After so long. Do you feel the irony, Yondaime? Minato and Kushina immediately tensed up when they heard the Kyuubi's words. With their current strength, it was going to be impossible to seal the Nine Tails now if they were to fight. Relax. I won't go back on my promise. You just have to trust me. Moreover, the kid doesn't have much time left, the Kyuubi said as it pointed at Naruto, whose skin was already turning pale. Minato and Kushina also knew that Naruto didn't have much time left. So they watched the Kyuubi's action intently. If it looked like the Kyuubi was trying to take over Naruto's body instead of helping him, they would immediately take action. Naruto also watched the Kyuubi's actions with curiosity. However, because his vision was becoming blurry, he could barely make out what it was doing. How do you plan on saving him? Minato asked with furrowed brows. He still felt like the Kyuubi had a hidden objective. If it wasn't for Naruto's life being at stake, he would never have unsealed the Kyuubi. Just watch was all the Kyuubi said before it sat down in a lotus style and placed its hands in an hand sign. After a few seconds of concentration, a golden yellow chakra strand of chakra moved out from the Kyuubi's chest and into Naruto's body. Minato and Kushina were surprised to see the golden yellow chakra coming out of the Kyuubi's body. It was different from the blackish red chakra that the Kyuubi was known for. What exactly is it planning to do? What's going on? Naruto felt a growing power inside of him as the Kyuubi continued to transfer its chakra to him. He felt more alive than ever before. Like he could do anything. This feeling lasted for a short while before he started regaining the feelings in his body again. It no longer felt heavy but lighter. His vision also started clearing up. This feeling Minato and Kushina immediately understood what was going on when they felt the aura Naruto emitted. It was what they had hoped Naruto would be able to achieve. But never in their life would they ever think that the Kyuubi will willing turn Naruto into a perfect Jinchuriki. Sometimes later a golden flash of light appeared around Naruto illuminating the entire room. Minato and Kushina quickly shielded their faces from the light. When they turned back to look at the light they were surprised by what they saw. Is that Naruto? Because of the light they could barely make out the details of his appearance. But they were certain that the person in the middle of the light was their son. Well, that was unexpected. The Kyuubi was also surprised by what it saw. Well, it has never actually connected with any of its Jinchuriki before. What it was seeing right now was completely different from what it expected. The three of them watched in figure inside the light in a daze until the light finally dimmed to reveal a fully healed Naruto. Thank you. Naruto bowed to the nine tails after inspecting his body. His eyes flashed a deep slitted red color before returning back to their original blue. Don't mention it. The Kyuubi waved him off nonchalantly. But in reality it had given most of its chakra just to save the kid and heal the wound caused by the Demon King. So it was currently in a weakened state and looked like malnourished. Naruto. Kushina rushed up to him and pulled him into a hug. She then started checking his body for injury. However, when she remembered the words he said to them earlier, she quickly backed away and apologized. Sorry. I did mean to. Minato, who had also approached them with the same intention, slowly dropped his hand back down. But what the two didn't expect was for Naruto to suddenly pull the both of them into a tight hug and whispered. Mom, Dad. Thank you. For everything. Minato and Kushina teared up when they heard his words. Neither being unable to hold back their tears. Thank you. Kushina gripped him a tight hug as she cried into his shoulder. Those were the words that she had been dying to hear. Your mother and I still have something to give you before we leave. Minato said after the three of them separated. Wait. You're leaving? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Weren't they sealed here like the nine tails? Kushina saw his confused expression so she decided to explain. Unlike the nine tails, we are chakra constructs left behind by the originals. Once we use up our chakra we will cease to exist. But as their chakra constructs we possess some of their knowledge. Which we wish to pass those knowledge on to you. Think of it as your inheritance. Since Naruto was no longer in their world, he won't be able to receive the inheritance they left for him there. So this was the only option left. It wasn't much, but it should be enough. Minato placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder and said. Thank you for forgiving us and also for granting our wish. Don't think of dying anytime soon, son. You still have a bright future in front of you, Kushina said with a warm smile on their face. Minato then turned to the nine tails and said. Also Kyuubi. Thank you for saving him. We owe you one. I didn't do it for you. The Kyuubi scoffed at him, which caused Minato to laugh before he said, I know. Thank you, Mom and Dad. For having me, Naruto said earnestly. Although he was still mad at them. He hadn't spent the last 10 years in this world hating them. He had come to realize just how amazing they were to give their lives for him. Especially after finding out that Dante's parents had done the exact same thing. Minato placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder and said. Thank you for forgiving us and also for granting our wish. No. Thank you for being our son. Minato shook his head. Although they were not there with him there. They had witnessed his life up to this point and they are proud of the man that he had become. I wish I could have met this Dante and lady that you talked about. They sound like wonderful people. They are, Naruto said with a grin. I'm sure they are. Minato and Kushina smiled when they saw the expression on his face before turning in a massive chakra that was absorbed into Naruto's body. A massive load of informations and memories filled his brain, causing him to experience a severe headache. It lasted for a few seconds before finally calming down. Amazing. Naruto felt like he had just lived two different lives at the same time. It was completely overwhelming. It didn't think such a thing was possible. You should get going, kid. The Kyuubi said after watching Naruto's first and last moment with his parents. But what about you? Will I be able to see you again? Naruto asked a being that had just saved him from death's doorstep. It would hurt him if he were to never be able to access this space again. However, that wasn't all. Blackish red chakra extended out from Naruto's body and consumed Purgatory's handle that was still in Naruto's hand, causing it to grow and change form. The cross guard turned into a demonic spiral connecting to a small skull at the end of each side with a hand coming out of the mouths. The grip of the sword had an elaborate design with two small pointed horns acting as the pommel. On the flat sides of the sword was a demonic skull that looks like that of a fox, with four pointed demonic horns on the top of the skull, connecting to the cross guard. There are 6 demonic horns under the skull, 3 on each sides, with the 2 horn on the side of it head being the biggest. The long blade has 3 elongated jagged edges on both sides of the blade. The sword gave off a demonic aura and had a completely new feel to it. It was nothing like the blade he wielded. It felt less like a blade and more like an entity. Is this what the Kyuubi meant by a present? Naruto marveled at the sight of the blade. It was true demonic sword in all sense. Then how do I leave this place? I will send you back. Also I have a little bit of surprise waiting for you. Before Naruto could ask what that was, the 9 tails sent him out of the space. After Naruto left, the 9 tails lied down to rest. It had given Naruto a lot of its chakra. It's going to take a while for it to recover its chakra. Give them hell, kid. Mundus. Dante and Mundus engaged in a bitter clash. The two of them were already at their wit end. They fought on a circular platform with gaps in it that surrounds a pit of lava. Mundus was waist deep in the middle of the pool and no longer has his wings. His part of his body had broken off, revealing a liquid black mass underneath it. Dante wasn't in a good state either. He had reverted back to his human form and was no longer in his demon form. The only reason Mundus hadn't finished him off already was because the Sparda was still powerful enough to counter most of its attacks. Give up, Dante. You are already past your limit. Mundus gazed down at Dante. It wasn't showing him mercy out of pity. Instead he felt that it would be a waste. Nobody had managed to push him this far before, not even Sparda. It would help his demon army greatly if Dante was to join their rank. But he knew that the fight will only end when one of them is dead. After all you took from me, I'll make sure you do not see the end of this day. Dante glared at him. Not just his parents but his adopted son as well. He was going to avenge them even if it was the last thing he did. Then accept your fate and die. Mundus shouted as he raised his hands above his head and fired a single homing bolt at Dante. Dante, who had been expecting the attack, tightened his grip on Sparda and prepared to counter the attack. However, halfway through, a golden flash of light appeared before Dante and deflected the beam of light, sending it flying off into the distance. Who dares? Mundus roared in rage that someone had interrupted the battle. However, when he saw the figure standing in front of the battlefield, he was appalled. You? How? Mundus wasn't the only one facing self-denial. Even Dante couldn't believe his eyes. Is that really you, Naruto? Dante was still finding it hard to believe his eyes when he saw the blonde-haired teen standing in front of him alive and well. He didn't look like someone who had just been dead a few moments ago. The last time he held him, his heart had already stopped beating. And no matter what he did, Naruto didn't flinch. It had broken his heart. He didn't know how he was going to face Lady when he got back. But just when he thought it was over for him, Naruto miraculously returned from the land of the dead. Leave the rest to me, Dante, Naruto suddenly said to Dante as he glared at Mundus. It was about time he paid Mundus back. Dante snapped out his daze when he heard Naruto's words and was about to stop him when a golden bright flash of light burst out from Naruto's body, surprising him. Naruto's body tone turned a dark golden hue, with golden flames burning off of his body. 2 flat white horns grew upward out of his forehead and the whisker marks on his cheeks thickened into black square shape on his face. His pupils became a golden color with a dark orange lit down the middle and black sclera. His fingernails turned into sharp claws and his body tone gained a dark hue to it. 6 Magatama markings appeared around his collarbone, with some sort of prominent circular swirl design over his stomach and various other lines extending along his body in an intricate design. The cross guard looks like a demonic spiral connecting to a small skull at the end of each side with a hand coming out of its mouth. The grip of the sword has an elaborate design with 2 small pointed horns acting as the pommel. On the flat sides of the sword is the demonic skull that looks like that of a fox, with 4 pointed demonic horns on the top of the skull, connecting to the cross guard. There are 6 demonic horns under the skull, 3 on each sides, with the 2 horn on the side of its head being the biggest. The long blade had 3 elongated jagged edges on both sides of the blade. The sword gave off a demonic aura and had a completely new feel to it. It was nothing like the blade he once wielded. Moreover, it felt less like a blade and more like an entity. Is this what the Kyuubi meant by a present? Naruto marveled at the sight of the blade. It was true demonic sword in all sense. There was even a faint red glow around the sword. What is going on? How? Mundus felt like he had witnessed the impossible. Even though it was happening in front of his eyes, he refused to believe it. Not only had Naruto managed to escape death, but he had even become a demon in the process. Did Dante have something to do with it? Mundus could help but wonder as he glared at Naruto. The moment the two of them made eye contact, Mundus felt a pressure from him was completely beyond his comprehension. If he was to guess, he'd say that Naruto was now more of a threat to him than Dante and Sparda ever was. Never would he ever imagine that the human he considered insignificant would actually make him feel this way. Just what happened to you, Naruto? How did you become so powerful? Or is this really the true power of your demon? Dante couldn't wrap his head around it no matter how he thought about it. But one thing was certain. Naruto was no longer human. Don't get BP just because you have become a demon. You are still no match for me, Mundus roared at Naruto before shooting 4 homing bolts at Naruto. Naruto swung purgatory at the 4 homing bolts, deflecting each of them, shocking both Mundus and Dante. I am not. Naruto replied, the stunned Mundus before he flew higher into the sky. Once he hovered above Mundus, he raised his right arm with his palm open wide as he gazed down at Mundus. What was the name of that technique again? Oh right. Rasengan. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.